And we now go to Democratic strategist and CNN senior political consultant David Axelrod, who is also in Chicago. David, we must congratulate you first for the victory by the Cubs, and we wish them well next week in the World Series.
Only 71 years, John.
Yes. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, give us your sense of where this race stands right now.
Look, I don't know any consultant on either side, any strategist who privately believes that Donald Trump's going to win this election. I think Hillary Clinton is in a very strong position now, and you can see it with the fact that she's pressing into these normally Republican bastions. Your own poll in Texas was kind of shocking. She's got a lead in the aggregation of polls in Arizona. And she's doing well in virtually every battleground state, traditional battleground state. So the question now that you hear is, what impact will it have down the ballot? And that's where I think the focus is going to be for the last couple of weeks.
In those House and Senate races. Before we move on to those for a second, you've been in one of these. You know about early voting, the voting that's taking place right now. How does a campaign, if it's doing as well as the Clinton campaign appears to be doing, how do they really know it from looking at the early voting, and what can they do strategically in the next 16 days that we should be looking for as we watch this campaign?
Well, this is one of the places where they have an advantage because they have invested in the accoutrements of modern politics, in analytics, to really analyze where these votes are coming from, who's voting early. They've assigned scores in these battleground states to these voters to assess the likelihood that they'll be voting Democrat or Republican. And through those techniques, you can really get a sense of how you are doing. And they know who hasn't voted, who should be voting for them, and they'll be pressing those people. There's no comparable operation in the Trump campaign. The Republican Party has it, but the Republican Party has to make a decision as to whether they bring out voters for their Senate candidates and congressional candidates, notwithstanding where they think those voters are on Donald Trump.
Do you think the fact that Hillary Clinton is now talking about, she took on Senator Pat Toomey, the Republican in Pennsylvania, and is spending, as you say, more of her attention on trying to help Democrats get elected in Congress, is that something they can do because they're seeing the early vote come in? Or is it just simply they're looking at the national polls and thinking they have that freedom to move a little bit off of their attack directly at Donald Trump?
Well, I think you can assume that they've got pretty sophisticated polling in each of these battleground states. But I think there's a potential trap for the Democrats and for Hillary Clinton if she partisanizes her appeal in the final weeks too sharply, because the voters who are drifting from Republicans are Republicans, college-educated Republicans, independent voters who might lean Republican. If you partisanize the race too sharply, you may drive some of those voters back. So she has to be careful about how she makes her appeal in the final weeks, trying to get people out, trying to get people to vote, but talking more broadly about how she's going to bring the country together rather than turning it into a partisan fight.
You know, we've talked over the course of this election about the message at the center of the Clinton campaign. One of those hacked emails that came out this week is a conversation inside the Clinton campaign back in February. Joel Benenson, her pollster, who you know well, writes in one of those emails, do we have any sense from her meaning the candidate, what she believes or wants her core message to be? Is that still a challenge for her campaign, what that core message is?
Well, yeah, I think it is a challenge for them, but it's completely overridden by the things that Frank Luntz just talked about. Donald Trump has become the issue in this campaign. He has made himself that. He has made himself the center of discussion, and that has overwhelmed every other issue. So even though she's going into this election with historically high liabilities, in comparison to Donald Trump, she's doing quite well.
Oprah Winfrey tried to make the case for Hillary Clinton and said, you don't have to like her. I guess that fits on a bumper sticker, but that's not, I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I think that this is a binary choice. One of these people is going to be president of the United States. What people have concluded, and you see it in every poll, is that Hillary Clinton has the competence and that she has the temperament to be president. They have questions about Donald Trump on both those things, and that's what's making it impossible for him to make progress.
All right, David Axelrod from Chicago, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you, John.